Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson, and as you can tell, I'm coming to you from a different location, hence the different backdrop. But hey, same content. Texas Tech football set to wrap up their season against Mississippi State, and of course, a very familiar foe in head coach Mike Leach for the Bulldogs. Of course, the all-time winningest coach in Texas Tech history. This is the first time Texas Tech has taken on their former coach, so of course, there's a lot of intrigue as the Red Raiders prepare to take on the Bulldogs in the Liberty Bowl. And that's coming up Tuesday with a 5:45 p.m. Central Time kickoff. And the game is set to be televised on ESPN. So there's a lot of excitement in terms of, or at least there's a lot being written about in terms of, of course, Texas Tech taking on Mike Leach, all the bad blood in terms of course, Mike Leach maintains that he loves the people, he loves all his former players and all that. It's just there were some people in Texas Tech's admin were obviously who he didn't get along with, and he still says that Texas Tech owes him a significant amount of money. There's a lot of people here in Raiderland who think basically the program's been cursed since all that went down, and it's hard to argue against it. I think the hiring of Joey McGuire, what he's doing on the recruiting trail, his message and everything is kind of maybe change some of that, even kind of taking some of the shine off this game. But still, I know Raiderland's excited to see what happens, and so I think for me, just laying out the game, just what are the keys on both sides of the ball for Texas Tech? Well, let's start offensively. Texas Tech, it's hard to pinpoint like what exactly is this team offensively, because earlier in the season it looked like Eric Ezekama was poised for an All-American year. He was really highlighted. I think teams have kind of worked to kind of take him away, forced other players to beat them, but also all the craziness with the quarterbacks. I mean, Tyler Shuck was the starter originally. Henry Columbia came in and started a lot of games when Shuck went down with injury. And then now it's been Donovan Smith, who's expected to be the guy Tuesday against Mississippi State. And they all do different things. And so that's kind of changed what Ezekama has meant to the team. So I'm actually, he declared he's a pretty big game. The logic dictates that Tech should try and run the ball, shorten the game, kind of control the clock, keep Mississippi State's high-powered passing attack, of course, on the sideline. But, you look at it, Mississippi State's like top 10 in the country in rushing yards allowed per game. I mean, they have a really good defense overall, statistically. But pass defense is probably it is. It's where they're the weakest. So, Donovan Smith is kind of like, what do they have in him in this freshman quarterback? Because in his first start, I mean, he lit it up for over 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns. He had 1 interception, but it wasn't even his fault. So he looked really good, played almost a flawless game in his first start. But then really wasn't nearly as effective the rest of the year. Was shut out against Oklahoma State, a very good defensive team in Oklahoma State, but still. And then the playbook has seemed kind of limited with him. Not that he doesn't know it, but just like I think what Sonny Cumbie feels comfortable in running. So, I mean, to me, yes, it'd be great if they were able to establish the run against a very good rush defense and control the clock in theory. But I think they're going to have to really hit some huge chunk plays, huge chunk pass plays off play action against Mississippi State to put enough points on the board to win the game. So that's really how I see it on offense. The offensive line has to have a really good game. They have to hold up against a Mississippi State, defense, which I think they're the top half of the country in terms of tackles for loss, sacks per game. They have 4 different players who have recorded at least 4 sacks. So they know how to get after the quarterback. They know how to get plays behind the line of scrimmage and really upset in terms of the set of downs, get you in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, so they can get off the field. So Tech's really their offensive line's got to play well. They got to be on the same page so they don't so that doesn't happen a lot. And then defensively, I mean, I think the obvious is that Will Rogers, their quarterback, is one of the best in the country, bar none. I mean, there's even some Heisman talk for him. I think if they had won more games, Mississippi State finished 7-5 overall. 4-4 in the SEC. They won some really big games. They upset some good teams, but their overall record probably wasn't good enough to get Will Rogers to the Heisman ceremony. But he certainly had a good enough resume statistically to justify at least, obviously being invited. In Mike Leach's air raid, his version of the air raid, which is one of the original versions of the air raid, of course. It'd be interesting to see, because I've watched some Mississippi State now getting ready for this game, but just how much, like, in the game, it's changed from what we remember when he was at Texas Tech, if really that much at all. So, the mad scientist, he's going to be the strange one. He's going to be motivated to win this game because of how he felt he was mistreated by some of the admin at Texas Tech. So, it's really some of the receivers Mississippi State has. There's just a bad matchup for Texas Tech's defense, which is one of the worst in terms of against the pass. So, logic dictates Tech's going to have to find a way to get some pressure on Will Rogers, get him off his comfort zone, and hopefully force him into some turnovers. Because I think that's another key is Texas Tech. They're going to have to be positive in the turnover battle. I mean, you can say that every week, but I feel like Tech's secondary against Mississippi State's passing attack is just, it's a mismatch, and obviously in Mississippi State's favor that Tech's going to have to find a way to overcome somehow, and obviously turnovers is a great equalizer. And then finally, I think, despite all the Leach stuff, which I get it, I get why people are interested in that makes 100% sense, but just for me, and having followed this team, through spring and fall camp, and then this whole season, the most interesting aspect to this team is how resilient they've been. They've had so many reasons, whether just past failures, their head coach getting fired, 2/3 through the season, the whole coaching staff basically going everywhere. Like, Sonny Cumbie's going to be the head coach of Louisiana Tech. Keith Patterson's going to be the head coach of Abilene Christian. Let's just go down the list. Coach Jones is going to Virginia Tech. Filani's going to Washington State. I mean, everybody's going all over the country, and they have obviously other things on their mind, but they've all come back to coach this team and get them ready for the bowl game, and that really speaks to how close this team. I think that was one of the most, and I'm culpable as well, but I think that's one of the most reported aspects of this team was that how close they were. I mean, these players obviously really like each other. They obviously really like the coaching staff who's leaving. They like the coaching staff that's coming in too, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying there was a bond that was formed over the struggle of all the injuries, just, the roller coaster that is a season. And it really, truly was a roller coaster, starting with that big win over Houston, and then, every other game it was like a really, really good effort, and then, oh man, that was terrible. And then back up again. It was like that. But they stuck together through it all. They won that big game upsetting Iowa State on Jonathan Garabay's 62-yard field goal at the end of regulation. And I just, that really is what impressed me. And that's what I'm always going to remember about this team is just how resilient it was to at least get to a bowl. So will that come up again? Will we see that again? Will this team rise and to the occasion and play for each other, and have the coaches done enough preparing these guys despite being distracted by their new gigs and all that? I mean, that to me is the number one most interesting storyline, which I don't think a lot of people are going to share that view, but that's just the way I look at it. The Mike Leach stuff, I get it, but this team had its own story independent of whatever passed from 20 years ago, or 15 years ago. So I'm interested to see how it plays out, because if they don't show up, obviously ready to play, it's going to get ugly quickly. And I think Mike Leach is not going to hesitate to run up the score. We all know that. So I hope these guys are ready to play. I hope the staff has them ready to play. I hope they, at least make it a close game, or maybe even pull off the upset. They're 9.5-point dogs. They've been dogs for a lot of the season, especially the second half of the season, and responded in some games. So I think the Red Raiders, because of that trait, that resilient trait, have a puncher's chance. I still think Mississippi State should be favored. Like, again, pass and attack against the secondary is just, it's hard to overcome in my mind to see how Tech can do that. But you know what? That's why they play the game. Crazy things happen in bowl games, and I can't wait to see how Texas Tech does in the Liberty Bowl. So with that, I want to thank you for watching.